Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm John Barber, where we talk NFL and college, and it's time for Jaxson Dart. All right, so I put up a little post after that dreadful performance by Russell Wilson in their last game, saying, "Okay, that's enough of Wilson. We got to get on to Dart here." And then so the news, I'm sure you know by now, the news broke that they're going to start Jaxson Dart here in Week 4, and so they waited just long enough for the statistical probability to be virtually zero to make the playoffs, to finally get rid of Wilson and go with Dart. Now, maybe you could argue they had to give him at least a few games here, but even putting up all the yards he put up against the Cowboys wasn't enough, because he still made the critical mistake and threw the interception that ended the game against the Cowboys, which, some people were like, oh, look, he had his best passing performance, 450 yards, but it still didn't matter. And it didn't matter because of the mistake he made. So, and then in this most recent game against the Chiefs, he just looked terrible, just throwing the ball away. He doesn't have it with his legs anymore. He doesn't seem to be able to pass intermediate passes either. So it's either something underneath or bombs. He just tries to throw bombs, but that's it. That's kind of all he has in the bag. And I mean, that goal line, that first and goal sequence where he threw the ball away, he ran it once and threw the ball away 3 times, but specifically threw the ball away on 4th and goal. That had to be the last straw where they realized he just doesn't have it. I mean, he couldn't even come up with, in that situation, just throw it to a receiver, no matter if he's covered. Maybe you get a pass interference. Either way, it's 4th down. It's over. Like, throwing it through the uprights he's just giving up. He just doesn't have it. So now this brings up a bunch of different, things we can talk about here. I guess for starting a rookie quarterback, there's always the debate as to, is it better for them to sit like the way Steve Young sat behind Montana, or the way both Rodgers and Jordan Love sat behind their respective QBs? And is that, even Brady sat for a bit behind Bledsoe. Like, is that the way it has to go? I mean, people always bring up Mahomes. He sat for a year too. And okay, you can make those arguments, but then you can also look at Jaden Daniels. He went straight to the NFC Championship game in his first year. Bo Nix made the playoffs in his first year. CJ Stroud made the playoffs in his first year. And I know people are going to jump all over saying Stroud's having a bad year, but he went to the playoffs his first 2 years in a row and kicked the shit out of somebody in his first 2 playoff games. So there's arguments to be made on both sides of this. You can start a rookie and they can perform well right out of the gates. And you can also sit a rookie and they can develop under a quarterback or in a system and then start. And both, I guess you could say both arguments are valid. But the caveat there is the guys who are sitting behind another player typically are sitting behind a good player. When Brady was behind Bledsoe, he'd just become the highest paid player in the NFL, and he was one of the highest ranked quarterbacks in the NFL at the time. When Jordan Love was sitting behind Rodgers was an MVP. When Rodgers was sitting behind Favre was an MVP. I mean, when Steve Young was sitting behind Montana was maybe the best, up until Brady, the best quarterback we've ever seen. So that's different when you're sitting in a functional organization, a top tier organization, an organization winning Super Bowls, making it to the Super Bowl. That's what I would call learning. Whatever the hell the Giants are doing with Wilson is not teaching Dart anything besides what a dysfunctional organization looks like, and what an aging out, washed up quarterback looks like who can't do it anymore. That's what he's learning. So, I mean, I guess behind the scenes you could say, oh, but there's still things he can pick up from a veteran. But overall, the atmosphere is, this is what a bad team looks like, and they lose. And that's it. That's kind of more what he's learning. I mean, I guess there's things like just knowing what it's like to be a professional. But with the way things were going with Wilson, we're talking about an organization that's likely going to fire its GM and its coach. That's no environment for Dart to be getting off the ground and starting to learn. Like, if you look at Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, this was a new coach with Daniels, and it was kind of a fresh start. It wasn't this like collapsing system like what the Giants are. And maybe that's part of it too, like to start a rookie. The whole thing has to be there, almost like McCarthy at the Vikings. Now, again, none of this means it's going to work, But most people who are paying attention would agree the Vikings, O'Connell's good. The organization is pretty buttoned up in Minnesota. The roster is outstanding, and it's probably a good situation for McCarthy to just start and let's see what happens. Like kind of learn on the fly there. There was, I mean, Darnold had a great performance last year, and then but they already invested the money in McCarthy, so they weren't gonna reinvest in Darnold and then make McCarthy wait 3 or 4 years. I mean, if they had the money, maybe they would have preferred to, but that's that situation. But you could make the argument that's at least a functional team, a functional organization with a really good roster where it's worth the shot. Same thing with what happened with Jaden Daniels, and then obviously with the Texans, CJ. I mean, regardless of how this season's going, it worked pretty well. CJ Stroud had an outstanding first year, and all of this nonsense about his sophomore slump, he still went to the playoffs and he still kicked the Chargers' ass in the playoffs last year. So something worked there too. But here with the Giants, this is just, I mean, man, the better Daniel Jones plays, the worse Dabol and Schoen look. I think some people could say maybe it's just them and it's not Daniel Jones. Like that's an argument for the right fit with the right team. And no one thought the Colts were doing anything, and they look pretty buttoned up now. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's a stud running back. They've always had a good defense, and their offensive weapons, like Downs is legit and Pittman's legit, and holy crap, Tyler Warren's on his way to becoming the offensive rookie of the year. So now all of a sudden that team's looks. I mean they're 3-0 and they're setting all these records, like haven't punted in 2 games and all, no turnovers and all that stuff. So the better he looks, the worse Schoen and Dabol look. And then obviously they let Barkley go, and then he has a historic Hall of Fame caliber type year and goes straight to the Super Bowl. So all of these are indications that the Giants aren't that buttoned up of an organization. And then that leads me to these desperation moves with these aging out, washed up quarterbacks. So I made a post about this earlier. My channel's tiny, like nobody saw it, but I posted that living in the past, these teams with like Russell Wilson now, and the Steelers with Rodgers, and the Browns with Flacco. I'm like, I don't know why they're doing this. Like, no one believes any of these 3 quarterbacks are taking any of these teams anywhere. If Steelers fans thinks Rodgers are taking you anywhere, you're just delusional. Rodgers just does not have it. They're totally fraudulent. They needed the Patriots to turn the ball over 5 times to get a 1-score win over them. Like the Steelers are not making the playoffs this year. And I'm still trying to figure out where these GMs get this idea from that this is going to work. And I think it's the side effect of seeing it work a couple of times, where a Super Bowl winning quarterback leaves the team for one reason or another, is let go, or leaves the team that they led to the Super Bowl. So like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Well, they're 2 of the only, I think they're the only 2 who've won Super Bowls with 2 different teams. And just a couple others, like Kurt Warner, have actually led a team, 2 different teams, to the Super Bowl. So this list is super, super short for players who've led a team, 2 different teams, to a Super Bowl. And then the list is only 2 guys who've actually won it on 2 different teams. So I don't, maybe that's what they think is happening here. Like, oh, well, because right now, if you line up all the quarterbacks in the NFL who've actually won a Super Bowl, 3 of them are those old guys, right? So it's, one of them's Flacco, one of them's Rodgers, one of them's Russell Wilson. And then what do you got? Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I mean, the list gets super short, super fast. And it's not like Mahomes or Hurts are ever going to be available. They're likely going to be on the Chiefs and the Eagles until they retire, and rightfully so. At this point, there's no reason for them to ever. Those organizations would be nuts to let either of those guys leave. It's not like, it's not like that's on the table or anything, but I'm just saying it's so obvious to say that. Like, the Chiefs are never letting Mahomes go, as his contract goes for like 10 years. And at this point, the Eagles should never let Jalen Hurts go. He's already been to 2 Super Bowls in his first 5 years. Already won one. So people can complain all about what their offense looks like. The guy gets to Super Bowls and he's won a Super Bowl, which is super, super rare. So, but that brings me to where Russell Wilson came from and how he ended up on the Giants, and how this this was obvious to all NFL fans that this was never going to work. And what I don't understand is how the management and the coaches see that differently. Or maybe they don't. And maybe they knew this was just a placeholder. And maybe it's like a cover your ass, try to save your job thing. And they can tell their owners, look, this guy's won a Super Bowl. He's one of the only 3 quarterbacks who we could get our hands on that's won a Super Bowl. Don't you want a Super Bowl winning quarterback in this room right now? Versus gambling on somebody who's just come from college, and we know how often draft picks bust and yada, yada, yada. But then my thought back to that is a guy like Wilson who took his team to 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl, if that team doesn't want him anymore, granted, there was a price tag involved, but if that team doesn't want him anymore, what makes you think that you know better than that team who had him, who led them to Super Bowls? You know better, and you're like, oh, but he'll lead us there, even though you guys have much better knowledge of what it's like to have this guy at the helm. Well, you guys don't know what you're doing anymore. He's going to lead us to the Super Bowl. And not only that, we're like 3 teams removed from when he was a Super Bowl QB. So the disastrous contract the Broncos gave Wilson, I mean, it was way, way too much money. And again, why would you do that for a player that the team he just led to the Super Bowl, well, not just, but the team he did lead to the Super Bowl didn't want him, but you think you're like, perfect, we'll take him? Like what makes you think you know more about what this guy is capable of than the team who actually had him? So that made no sense to me with the Broncos paying him all that money. And obviously that didn't work out. And then when he goes to the Steelers, that didn't work either. And it was clear like he was, okay, maybe statistically it was okay. But the average football fan's looking at that thinking, oh yeah, this isn't it. Like this isn't it. Like you don't need to know too much about X's and O's. You don't need to know how to break down film. You don't need to be a former collegiate or NFL player to just look and see which teams have a Super Bowl caliber looking offense and quarterback and which teams don't. And any NFL fan, if you ask them and you say, hey, is Wilson going to lead the Steelers to the Super Bowl? People are like, yeah, no chance. And, is he going to lead the Giants even to the playoffs? Like, yeah, no chance. Like you don't need to know that much about football to just see what it looks like on the field. And he just doesn't have it. As compared to the guys who do have it, you would never bet on this guy to take this team to the playoffs. So maybe, I don't know, maybe these management and coaching staffs can convince themselves there's something there that isn't there, but yet the average fan could look at it saying, yeah, there's no chance. Like I'm sure every single Giants fan, when they saw Wilson coming, thought, oh, well, this is a placeholder. Like this season's a write-off. And this season is a write-off. They're a 3-0 start in the NFL leads to a less than 2% chance of making it to the playoffs. So this team has 0. That's it. The playoffs are already out of the question for this team. No matter how well Dart performs, you'd need a historic performance out of him to make the playoffs at this point. So starting him now at least gives the Giants fans some hope, something interesting to watch. I mean, Scadaboo's fun as hell. Some of these new pieces on the defense look like they can do something. But the spirit of the team, they just can't believe that it's, how could they want to keep fighting when you got a quarterback just literally throwing the game away, just throwing the ball to the other team indiscriminately at the end of games and at the worst times too. And even when he had his best performance, he still threw the game away. And so I can see how just it would get more toxic in that locker room. I mean, he can't get the ball to Neighbors. That's your single best player on the entire team, and he somehow can't get the ball to him. So I don't know where else there is to go with this. At this point, I'd have rather even seen Jameis Winston, because he'd throw it to Neighbors. Like, I don't think, and he wouldn't care how many times he'd throw it to the other team. He's for sure going to get it to Neighbors one way or another. So at least Winston would have been fun, but the true hope for the future is Dart. So the counter argument is, you could spoil him, you could put him in too soon. This team's not that good, and it's going to kill his confidence. I mean, I guess, but then what's the alternative? Just watch the season go down the toilet with Wilson? Like that's how do you give your fans that? So we're going to protect this guy by throwing this season away. There's no way out of that one. There's no win there. So, I mean, in modern NFL, we just don't have The situation is not such that these guys sit behind. It's rare now that you sit behind a quarterback to learn. And I will maintain he ain't learning anything watching this team go down the drain while Wilson throws the game away in the fourth quarter every game. So that's not an environment to learn how to quarterback in the NFL. That's just watching a washed up player kind of at the end of a sad like journeyman portion of his career. It's just sort of fizzling, and it's just sad. I mean, it'd be even more fun if he sat under Winston. I don't know. It's just, I mean, good riddance. Wilson should never see the field again. I mean, that's enough. He's earned his money. It's clear he can't do it. The playoffs are already off the table, so at least maybe the Giants fans can have fun seeing what the future might be here. And that's what fans tune in for. They tune in for hope. They won't want to tune into what they already know is the outcome. And with Wilson, you already know the outcome. You can't win with Wilson. And I maintain the same thing with Rodgers and Flacco. Yes, Rodgers still has an arm. No matter how old Rodgers gets, he's still going to have that arm. But in the modern NFL, it's rare for the quarterback who cannot run anymore to beat the best quarterbacks who can run. So when it comes down to it, yes, the Steelers will win some games throughout the season. They might even make the playoffs. But are you really betting on an old guy who's not all that mobile anymore to compete and beat like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes? I mean, that's just to get to the Super Bowl, let alone whoever's going to be on the other side of the field in the Super Bowl. So I just don't think he doesn't have what it takes to compete head to head with the playmaking ability of today's younger players when it matters most at the end of the season, when that playmaking ability might be the difference in the game. Like Lamar Jackson. Okay, yeah, he had a bad game last night against the Lions, but still, head to head in a one game situation, are you betting on 40-whatever-year-old Rodgers who can't really move versus Jackson? Like when the game's on the line and he's got the extra gear of his legs that Rodgers just doesn't have anymore. Rodgers did have it in his prime, but he just doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have that extra piece. And again, at the end of the season, when it matters most, and specifically in the playoffs, he's not against other statues in the pocket like himself. He's not up against Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or Kurt Warner, who just stood there and threw the ball, because then you're kind of even. You're like, oh, we both just have an immobile guy sitting in the pocket. So that's if they're at that caliber, like a Drew Brees or a Kurt Warner and an Aaron Rodgers. Okay, we've got gunslingers who stand in the pocket. Okay, so that's almost even. But now you've got someone like Rodgers or someone like Flacco, who, yes, can read defenses. He understands football, but man, when pressure's on, he's not buying time. He's never getting out of a sack. And it's evident on film, they will throw the ball away to protect their bodies versus extend the play, sacrifice the body, make the play. It's going to be exceedingly rare for them to do that versus just ditch the ball and save their body. And it's just an instinct at their age. That's just going to be what it is. Also, they're trying to make it the season. So yes, Flacco led them at the end of the game there to win that game. But I don't think that's going to be commonplace for Flacco or Rodgers. They aren't going to be able to buy you the time and make the play that matters most in the games when the quarterback on the other side of the field can do that, right? So head to head, do you think Mahomes is going to make that play, extend, and find a way? Or is Rodgers going to do it when they're playing against each other? Or Jackson? Or Josh Allen? Or Justin Herbert? Like, it's not going to be Rodgers. In every one of those cases, you'd bet on the other guy to make that play. I'll even put Bo Nix in there too. Now, it doesn't mean Rodgers doesn't still have his rocket arm and he's super accurate and he's super smart and all that stuff. But those games that are won at the margins are when it breaks down and you can extend and keep it going. And it's somewhere in there, they're going to have to get key first downs with their legs. And that's something Rodgers used to be able to do. Russell Wilson used to be able to do it. And neither of them can do it anymore. And that's one of the major missing pieces in their games that used to be part of their game. And now when you see the pocket collapse on them, they just sort of crumble up, cover the ball, and that's that. And you can tell they just don't even want to take a hit. And I mean, that's fair for guys their age. It hurts now. They don't recover that fast. They're trying to preserve their bodies. And on top of that, at their age, I just don't think they have the killer instinct anymore. Like, they obviously are passionate about the game. Like they panned over to Flacco after the game won, and you could see a little bit of it in him, but you could also kind of catch the sense that he's been there, he's done that, he's won the Super Bowl. If this season just sort of unravels, he probably doesn't actually really care. I mean, he was already retired, speaking of Flacco specifically. And some of the offseason stuff with Rodgers, and even if you watch the documentary, whether or not he's being truthful on the documentary, he's giving out that sense that he already understands there's more to life than football, even though he's still playing football. He's publicly declared that in many venues, podcasts, documentaries, wherever, that he gets it, that there's more to life than football, and he wants to explore, the everything life has to offer, even though he's still playing football. But when you look at the guys who are gonna make it to the Super Bowl, they are like deadly focused on football. It's all that there is. Like that Jalen Hurts is in that zone right now. Like the minute the Super Bowl's over, he's like, how can I get better for the next one? Same with Mahomes. It's all just focused on the Super Bowl. It's almost like an obsession, but Brady was the most of that. We always have to get better. Nothing's good enough. Every time he won a Super Bowl, all he could think of was how to get better for the next one. And he even took maybe a light shot at Baker Mayfield when Baker Mayfield came in there, and he said, man, when Baker Mayfield went to the Bucs, and kind of something in the media about him making a comment of how deadly serious everything was and how much of almost like a curmudgeon, like sort of grump Brady was. And it's like, no, that's what it takes to win a Super Bowl, as evidenced by the guy shows up and wins the Super Bowl. So it isn't just all fun and games. Like yes, you can enjoy it, but there is almost a maniacal focus it takes to win the Super Bowl, as evidenced by Brady and Manning, and the guys who do win the Super Bowl are all like that. And maybe a guy like Wilson, a guy like Rodgers, and a guy like Flacco, they obviously had it in them when it happened, but maybe that fire is just kind of long past. So the understanding of the game, like the quarterback position is so cerebral. Once you kind of seen it and done it enough, you kind of just get how it all works. But you still have to have like the desire to put it on the line at the end of the game and in the playoffs when it matters against the younger kids who are for sure putting it on the line and still have their body at maximum ability. So it's when you put all that together, these old guys can't win. They're never going to win. They'll win you just enough games for the team to not look like an embarrassment. But the Steelers fans know they're not going nowhere with Rodgers. The Browns fans know they're going nowhere with Flacco. The Giants fan knew before, when Russell Wilson showed up, this is no chance. They just knew that. I mean, he's the sloppy fourth now. Same with Rodgers. I mean, these guys they just don't have. They used to, but they just don't have what it takes now. And 3 games in the Giants season, okay. Now we're on to Dart, and let's see what happens here. I guarantee you, I'm going to be tuning. It's going to be fun as hell to watch, and there's no guarantee he's going to be great this season. But we've seen it happen. We just saw it happen with Jaden Daniels, so it's possible. Maybe not all that common, but possible. So we'll see. But I guarantee Giants fans are way more excited about Dart than Wilson, and I'm sure they would have been more excited about Jameis Winston than Wilson. Just anything other than the mess that you guys were given for 3 games here. So I mean, good for the Giants, but it might already be too late for Schoen and Dabol, especially if Indiana Jones keeps playing the way he's playing. Every game Jones looks that good, Dabol and Schoen look that much worse. And I can't even imagine how good Dart will have to play to make Giants fans not put that together and sort of forget about how good either that or Daniel Jones has to completely fall off the map and turn into what everyone thought. He's lucky right now, but he'll revert back to whatever the Giants Daniel Jones was. But man, if he keeps doing what he's doing and he actually is in the running for the MVP, that makes the Giants organization look so bad and like such a clown show. If you let Barkley go, and he has a historic season, wins the Super Bowl. Now Indiana Jones looks amazing. I think it was McKinney, one of their DBs. They let go, and he was leading the league in interceptions as soon as he leaves. It's like everybody leaves the Giants and becomes like an All-Pro immediately. So Maybe that's an indictment of the Giants coaching staff and organization. I don't know. Maybe that's trying to make connections that aren't there. But the public perception and the NFL is a consumable entertainment product by the public. That's exactly what it looks like. It just looks like players flounder when they're with the Giants, and then they flourish when they're not with the Giants. So is this just going to crush Dart's career before it even starts? I don't know. But the alternative, watching Wilson just throw the ball away and throw games away, that's even worse. So you got to put something on the field for people to watch. And whether or not the motivation is to attempt to save Schoen and Dabol's career, I don't know. But I mean, the product they were putting on the field was just hot garbage. So it's this can't be any worse. This is gonna I think this is gonna be more exciting no matter what happens. So that's all I got. Super excited to see what Dart looks like. I mean, he was fun as hell in college. He seems like he's got a good attitude, a good head on his shoulders. He looked good in preseason. Take that for what it's worth. Preseason's just preseason. But he seemed to know how to run the offense. He seemed to know how to make some reads. It seemed like there was something there. And combining him and his, youthful thing with Scadaboo might be really, really fun. And maybe it'll reinvigorate Neighbors, because Neighbors was quickly looking like he was becoming a disgruntled receiver, not for any reason of his personality, but he's just not getting the ball. Like, teams were effectively taking him away, and they had no idea how to get the ball back to him. So, I don't know. This Giants are going to be must-watch TV now that Dart's starting. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is this what you're thinking right now too? Also, if you're still with me, I super appreciate you checking out the channel. I know it's super small. We just started it last year. So if you want to support what we got going on here, I'd super appreciate if you could give it a like and a subscribe. That would really help grow the channel. And, maybe share it with somebody who you think might enjoy the talk I'm giving here. All right. So we'll catch you later.